Were you gonna say we should dive deep? Like,
Like Derek Lewis this evening.
yeah,
Oh, there's a sight for sore eyes right there.
indeed. Ah, welcome everyone to the 6th round post-fight show with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host Eddie Mercado from BloodyElbow.com. Here for UFC Austin, UFC Fight Night, Cowboy versus Medeiros. Going down in Austin, Texas tonight, and a fun, classic, action-filled fight night card from the UFC. Like, I know there were some people who, like, you know, the UFC's kind of built this mentality now where every show that isn't superstar-filled, people are just like, oh, this is some shit, and I don't care, and this is just going to be another ugly crap card and all that. But this was set up to be a fun fight night card by classic standards. It's just you kind of got pasted with that whole thing, and it showed up as a fun fight night card, you know?
I would call it UFC awesome.
Yeah.
It was dope. A lot of finishes, couple decisions, and a great night for Texas. The Texans, I think they won out tonight. I don't think a single Texan lost.
Everybody, all the hometown fighters won, even if Sage Northcutt got a little bit of a hometown decision.
A little bit of home cooking for the Sage, but you know how that goes. It's like you're in Texas and you're like the UFC golden boy. Like there is no way he's losing a decision.
Yeah,
close like that.
And you know, I'm willing to say that fight was close and that Sage had an argument. I just hate seeing the dude get like rocked in both of the shit. I lost my co-host, but I hate to see a dude get rocked in both the first 2 rounds of a fight and then still get one of those rounds. Like, I got a ton of people online. Apparently Sage has a lot more fans than you would think from the number of hardcore fans that can't stand the dude. But I had all sorts of people up on the Twitter timeline tonight just being like, you know, volume wins and he's short. And I'm the, you know me, I'm the king of like score volume. You should score volume, but damage is king. Like damage is the primary thing. If you get hurt in a round, you got to like really, really do something to make that up. And I just didn't see that in the first 2 rounds.
Nah, I scored that one against Northcutt. But I mean, I wouldn't say a robbery necessarily.
Gouti took the 3rd round off in a fight where he was getting outlanded. That, you know, I mean, I think it's kind of bullshit, but at the same time, you can't just like coast your way out of a fight that has reasons to be close.
And like when you get the takedown, but that's all you do with it is just hold someone down. Like I'm not upset if you lose that, you know. And they award
I definitely wasn't scoring Gouti for any of the takedowns or round 3 because that was a whole thing. People were like, oh, well, what are you scoring? It's takedowns and control and all that. Like, no, I'm literally just scoring the shots where he obviously hurt Northcutt in each of the first 2 rounds. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a minute. Let's start out. Donald Cerrone, Yancy Medeiros. All credit to Yancy, man. He came out and he fought a better fight than I thought he was capable of against Donald Cerrone. He came out and he put pressure on. Looked like he was clipping Cerrone up just like crazy in the first couple of minutes of that fight. You know, doing what Darren Till did without any of the technique of Darren Till, but just going out there, throwing lots of long 1-2s, staying in Cerrone's face, keeping a jab out there, landing right hands over and over again, you know, snapping his head back and all that. But he just, you know, keeping that pressure on. You can see he's just a little too wild, gets both his hands out with his head on line, doesn't really have any defensive checks in place. And after a while, Cerrone got his timing, and he was just way more accurate and cleaner.
Yeah, and you can see it, too. Like, the second Cerrone got his timing is the second all that pressure went out the window.
Yeah.
Yancy was like, fuck. Like, he's got me. And, I mean, credit to Yancy for being game and for being tough as they come. But, man, I think Cerrone is just surgical when it comes down to it. Like, that's one dude who has accuracy. He has precision. And, you know, he still has decent enough power. It's not really like his power. I just feel like
he's pinpoint. Like when you're hitting somebody that clean and they're coming in with their head on line and with their hands out.
And like the timing. Yeah. Like, remember he dropped Edson Barbosa with a jab.
Yep.
Like his left hand is just it's such a spear. And I mean, he credit to Cowboy. Like he made adjustments. You know, he came out and he was trying to, you know, employ this kicking game and kicking the body, which was effective. but it wasn't doing the same sort of damage. Like Yancey was really tagging him at that point. And then he switched up and started pumping his jab, landing his punches. And Yancey was just, he was all over the place at that point.
And I think it showed something that Cerrone really had to prove. And it was the kind of part of why I was picking Cerrone. A lot of the reason that I was willing to pick him going into this is that he's not that far gone. Like, his chin is not destroyed. Getting crushed by Darren Till, and he didn't even go out against Darren Till. He just got dropped and then was hurt bad enough that he couldn't recover. It wasn't like he's just knocked out and laying there. But that still took like a lot of serious punishment consistently. You know, before that fucking Masvidal, he had to light Cerrone up for a round and a half to put him away. Like, Cerrone's not at the point where anybody who can lunge in with one good hard shot at a time is just going to knock him out cold. And
yeah, and before that it was RDA.
Yeah, but that was a while ago. And that was the bot. Was that behind Body Work or no? That was, I guess it wasn't that long ago, but
it was long ago. It was his last lightweight fight.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Cerrone. People like it was the Till and the Masvidal losses recently that had everybody like, oh, Cerrone's gone. He's just gonna get melted by Medeiros and all that. It's like, I mean, there's a difference between being less durable than he used to be and just being shot. You know, there's a difference of where Cerrone's at and where Josh Burkman's at.
But you know, there was a moment at the beginning of that fight where you're like, oh shit, Cowboy might be getting his ass knocked out here.
Medeiros was fighting, like I said, he came out fighting the exact right fight. A fight I didn't think he could fight. I didn't think he could sustain that kind of pressure for 2 minutes, much less a whole round. But he came out and he was just putting shots together, walking Cerrone down, keeping pressure on, landing. Cerrone's always been a bad starter. Just come out, pour it on early, great game plan. And the fact that Medeiros is just not that clean a technical fighter. You know, there's still levels to this game.
Definitely levels. And man, Cerrone, he just showed the fuck up. And his killer instinct is so great. You know, like if his killer instinct wasn't so on point, he wouldn't have made it. He wouldn't have beat the buzzer here. You know, there were 2 seconds left in the round, but Cowboy just wasn't having it. He was like, "This is it, done." Great fight for Cowboy.
Yeah, great fight for him. Exactly the fight he needed to get back on track and still be the dude he's been. You know, a guy who's going to come out every couple of months, fight on a UFC card, be a name, get paid, go. You know, he might not win all the time. I don't expect him to win nearly the kind of streaks he used to have. But if he can go, you know, win 2 out of every 3, he's still going to be a mainstay for main cards in the UFC.
He's going to be the run buster from now on.
For that, Derek Lewis beat Marcin Tybura, and I mean, this fight was going exactly like I was expecting, where Lewis comes out hard, looked good for a couple of minutes. To his credit, he actually came out throwing his punches, which is great because Lewis came out with a wrestling game too. Because in the past, he's come out hard with this like high octane kicking game that just gasses him in 2 minutes. And then spends the rest of the fight, you know, hanging back with his hands on his hips, huffing. And he came out with a good, you know, power punching, takedown game, all that. Got totally outworked by Tybura on the mat after a strong start. And then, man, it was all Tybura in round 3, going for that high crotch single, trying to lift Derek Lewis up for a takedown. It's just like, man, you were trying to lift a bus up to try and like win this fight right now. And the moment Derek Lewis broke that grip, he just put it on him.
Yeah, excellent fight for Derek Lewis. You know, he really had to dig deep here. Like it was giving me that Curtis Blades Mark Hunt feel. Like, oh, I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
Tybura's gonna come out in the 3rd and get Lewis down, and Lewis is not gonna be able to get up. Like, he's just too gassed. But Lewis was so smart with the way he came out in the 3rd. He was looking to stop the takedown. Like, he sat back. His hands were a little low, probably because he was tired, but still. Yeah. He knew that the takedown was coming. And sure enough, Tybura went for it. Lewis was ready for it, but he did find himself up against the cage. did what he had to do to create just enough space to let his hands fly, and sure as shit got the freaking knockout doing it.
That's the first knockout loss of Marcin Tybura's career. Like, that's damned impressive, you know? Because that was the other reason that I wasn't, you know, why the odds were skewed against Lewis in this fight, is that he hasn't shown the consistency of being able to regularly knock out heavyweights that are durable at an elite level. You know? Like the really durable top-level heavyweights. Lewis hasn't looked like that same killer. Or, I mean, he hasn't fought that many. I guess it's just Mark Hunt to his credit. Just Mark Hunt. But still. And so it was a question of, like, Lewis's game always seemed a little too wild and sloppy. That it's like, how are you going to handle somebody who's durable and can take it and can go after you for 3 rounds? And knocking out Tybura, like, that's no joke. Tybura's a tough guy to finish.
Definitely tough guy to finish. And just the way that Lewis had to do it, he had to come back. Like, he had to dig deep. He had to stop the takedown there in the 3rd, and he was able to do it. And, you know, that's promising as someone who, you know, has all the sort of X factors and, like, star power that you would want. You know, this guy's funny. He's talking about going in his post-fight interview with his wife. Like, how can you not love this dude?
Yeah.
And he's finding ways to win fights, which I think is amazing. Like, he didn't get frustrated. He didn't bail on the fight. He hung with it. He made the adjustments, and he got the freaking W in spectacular fashion. I'm happy for the dude.
Yeah, and I mean, it's enough to keep him in the top 5 and like a mainstay at the top 10 at heavyweight, which it needs dudes like him to show up. Tybura would be good in that role too, but he's not nearly as charismatic or fun to book. People aren't going to flock to see Marcin Tybura's next fight.
Nah.
And they wouldn't have, even if he'd beat Derek Lewis with a smothering game in this fight. So, before that, James Vick beat Francisco Trinaldo, and I mean, eventually kind of a cautious win for Vick. He said he dislocated his pinky on one hand, which is part of why he was just kind of coasting and on the back foot late. Honestly, though, too, it was just kind of like, you know, the first round played out the way I thought, with all the, like, exchanges where you saw Trinaldo coming out looking for the big left, Vick landing his flurries as Trinaldo got a little lazy on defense, and Vick using his length to be evasive and all that. And then it just kind of became Vick just kind of staving Trinaldo off, and Trinaldo not being able to let his hands go for the last round and a half of the fight or so.
Yeah, it was an interesting fight for Vick, an intelligent fight. You know, like you said, he was definitely being cautious. I know you still hate his style. And,
I do. I mean, it was better in this fight because he actually actively stayed away defensively rather than just, like, fending things off and just kind of, like, getting backed up. He was able to cut angles a lot better and flurry in response rather than just kind of being defensively passive, which he's been in the past, or, you know, just trying to shoo away the fight and then reset and then explode forward. This was a much more fluid James Vick and a better performance for it. So I hate it a little less.
And he really utilized his long-range kicks, like, you know, a variety of them. Like, he was throwing all sorts of fancy stuff to make Trinaldo stay far away, to the point where Trinaldo was really struggling to land his punches.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have a lot more respect for any fighter that I can see clearly what they're doing in each round to win the round. And Vick seems like he's added a lot more volume tools to win the intersectional parts of a fight beyond just big flurries of potential fight-ending offense.
Yeah, a real controlling fight for Vick. Yeah. It was nice to see. You know, he looked like a top 15, you know, lightweight out there, even though he looks like a freaking welterweight or bigger.
Yeah, no kidding. So good win.
I hope they give him someone good. Yeah.
Hopefully he gets to keep climbing and find somebody else in the top 15 who will fight him. I don't know who that would be off the top of my head, but
well, when I spoke to him before this, he told me that he'd be down to fight Dariush again, and Dariush already made a gentleman's agreement with him that he would fight him after his upcoming fight. Okay, I think he's fighting Bobby Green.
Dariush is no, but Green's injured now, so if Vick wants to fight,
shut up.
if Vick wants to fight again in a hurry, they could slot Vick in for that rematch.
Oh man,
I don't know how bad his hand got injured, but
I forgot about the dislocated pinky. Yeah, a pinky. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't know, but there's an idea. It's right. It's out there. It's waiting for Vick if he can jump on it.
And that's the next pay-per-view, isn't it?
Might be. Yeah, I think it is.
Damn. Man, that's so intriguing. That's so intriguing.
Green, that quick turnaround too. Like he won that fight, and the next day they had him booked against Darius. So something for him to think about. Before that, Curtis Millander beat Thiago Alves, and if Yancy Medeiros came out like immediately following the right game plan to potentially beat Donald Cerrone, Thiago Alves really kind of let Curtis Millander have all of his own way in this fight.
Yeah, it was Alves trying to play an outside game against someone much taller and longer than him.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
The worst part of it was that after getting really badly hurt in round 1 and almost like knocked out, he then turned it on and started pressuring Curtis, started hitting him because Millander's defense is not very active, and got a takedown, put him on his back. And it's just like, man, if you were just fighting like this the whole time, this is right here for you. But round 2 started, and he
was landing leg kicks and everything.
Then round 2 started, and he went right back to playing the passive outside striking game of trying to match Millander at range, and that was just a death sentence.
Man, it was crazy. It was like as soon as Alves was like went in to land a leg kick, like he built up a little confidence. Boom, here comes this phenomenal step-in knee that just absolutely destroys Alves. And like I'm glad it came too, because Millander really had him dead to rights there in the first and had the premature celebration that I know he's kicking himself for. That could have been really detrimental, especially like you said, because he gave up the takedown after that. So it was like, oh shit. Like not only did you not finish this guy when you could have, but then you gave up the dominant position. Like that is a FIQ error if I've ever seen one. But luckily he's the far superior striker and pulled out something dynamic to get the win there in the second. So excellent debut for Millander.
Yeah, no, I mean he to his credit too, you know, he looked a lot calmer in this fight than he has in the past. I mean, even his last pre-UFC fight against Nick Barnes, I was watching that, and Barnes had a lot of success just kind of hanging with Millander in the pocket, staying on him, swarming him, clipped him up, hurt him early in the fight. And Millander looked a lot more comfortable against Alves, staying in the pocket as Alves came in, doing things like landing that knee. Like that's kind of confidence and comfort, standing in to land a counter shot that I'm happy to see more of from a guy as big and powerful as him.
Yeah, I mean he was sharpshooting out there. I thought he looked great, and like even the way he came out in the second, like super composed, getting back to his basics. I thought that was really impressive, and it showed, you know, it showed composure. It showed that he belongs there.
Yeah.
And he does still give me like a Chidi Inju Kawani feel.
Yeah.
A little bit better, a little more dynamic, more power, but still kind of has that. I don't know what it is about him.
You got to be cautious about the ease with which he gave up that takedown to a dude 5 inches shorter than him.
Yeah.
Like
that was rocked.
Yeah, a rock dude 5 inches shorter than you just like took him down with ease. And that's going to be, like I say, I think there's still a game plan very clear out there to beat Millander around staying on him, not being overawed by how big and strong he is, and just putting pressure on, throwing overhands, staying in his face, looking for takedowns. But he showed in this fight at least that while you're doing that, he's a lot more able to find the big counter shots that he was not that comfortable finding early in his career.
He's dangerous, man. He really is dangerous. And if he can learn to step up his defense a little bit and learn to stay vertical a bit better, he's going to be a problem.
Yeah. For that featherweight fight, Brandon Davis beat Steven Peterson. Oh, man, I had my mic over here the whole time. Whoops. Whatever. Nobody saw that. Nobody knows. It's all fine. Totally professional.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Featherweight fight before that, Brandon Davis beat Steven Peterson. A lot more of the Brandon Davis we saw on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. A lot more of the matchup a lot of people expected for him from the Bochniak fight. Somebody in Peterson who would just wade in on him and try and out-tough him and, kind of switch up a 1-2, a takedown game and very straight lines. Really let Davis just show off his slick volume game of being able to stand in the pocket, duck around, and outland people at like a 2-to-1 clip.
Yeah, Peterson had the wrong game plan. Like, he takes the center and he just allows Davis to sit on the outside and just move in and out, pop shotting. Like, he didn't put on the pressure. He was busted up by the end of the first. And it's like, round 2 comes around. Peterson's like, okay, he starts pressuring at this point, and like, that's what you have to do. If someone's trying to be in and out and be that elusive matador type fighter, you have to put the pressure on them and wear them out. But he wasn't doing that. Like, he started for a little bit, but it wasn't that effective. It became more effective as the fight went on, and it actually forced Davis to, like, I feel like he shot a takedown there in the second because he was too tired to just keep it standing and keep up with that pace. And that was kind of, he actually closed the distance for Peterson, allowing Peterson to like push him up against the fence and really, and Davis didn't return to open space for the rest of that round.
Yeah.
But, Peterson just couldn't keep up the pressure there in the third. Like, it started to fade. And then,
well, he's kind of one of those dudes that's not bad at everything, but not really great at, not a great athlete, not a great wrestler, not a great striker, but has built his game around being tough and just kind of staying after people. And you look at like the Bochniak fight for Davis, where Bochniak just stayed on the outside and just dipped in and out and made Davis pay for being kind of stationary and plotting a lot of the time. And Peterson just kind of tried to meet him with being stationary and plotting, and you can't do that.
You can't do that at all. Davis hit that big knee there, unloaded late. Like, credit to Peterson for being tough as shit.
Yeah,
because he ate a lot of shots for not going down. And man, Davis's style is so taxing. Like, it makes me tired.
Yeah,
and like the fact that his powers on the low end really doesn't help.
No,
but he is gritty and he does dig deep. But
yeah,
it's like watching Yancey out there, kind of. You're just like, man, at any second you're about to get knocked out.
But he's a little slicker with his head movement, and a much better at working his combinations and like staying defensive as he throws. But he, when you throw like 10 strikes a minute, that was what he did on Dana White Contender Series, you are going to get hit. Like, there's just no way to not get hit throwing that kind of offense. So
you're going to get hit and you're going to get tired.
Yep. For that, Sage Northcutt, Tybura Gouti, we already talked about this fight a bit. Gouti, I mean, he did get outlanded, apparently, by fight stats. I actually need to look at this. Tybura Gouti, fight metric. Because UFC graphics said that he got outlanded like 3-1. And it didn't feel like that live to me. I didn't think.
I mean, but you have to remember, the whole time that Gouti is going for his takedown, Sage is landing strikes from his back. He's landing those Travis Brown elbows and all that.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is that Fight Metric has it. He got outlanded 4-1 in total strikes, 125-30, but only 2-1 in significant strikes. So I guess, however you want, whatever you want to take away from that. Point being, Gouti hurt Sage pretty clearly in the first 2 rounds. Buckled him. They didn't count either as a knockdown. I guess Sage kind of shot a takedown after the first one where he got buckled and like backed up against the fence. The second time, though, he just got clubbered and then dropped down to his knees and kind of put his arms out like he might have been trying to shot, but it was kind of like that Sebo Hamasi, Razak Al Hassan fight from their first knockdown, or the first fight where he got the ref called it a knockout. like that still to me should kind of count as a knockdown. Sage looked like he went down and then kind of turned that into wrestling.
Yeah, that was very Vincent Henderson-esque of Sage.
Yeah.
But he squeaked out the win, which I guess is good for him. But in my eyes, I think there was a little bit of home cooking going on. I think Sage lost rounds 1 and 2. Sage definitely earned round 3 in my eyes, though.
Oh, yeah, no question. There's no way Tybura Gouti won round 3 of that fight. And I'm okay with the argument that Sage won round 1. I just really, judging criteria, it's damage, volume, effective grappling. So that means like passing and submission attempts or slams. And then it's way at the end, it's cage control. Like, so far off into the distance, mean mugging might be better than cage control. And no, it's a battle of volume and damage, and I think that damage should generally win out in that kind of thing, but whatever. I mean, Tybura Gouti has not made any kind of mark that he's about to be any kind of future top prospect, so it's hard to be like, oh no, they've robbed poor Tybura, but... Northcutt, it is hard to see this fight and to see how bad Northcutt's defensive footwork and defensive instincts are and be like really hopeful going forward against, because I mean the UFC is full of Tybura Gouti. Like that dude is, there are 100 other lightweights literally out there who can fight like that, and Northcutt getting clipped up badly in the first 2 rounds does not bode well.
But I guess people think maybe the sky's the limit for Sage, and it's just not. Like, it's really not. And people expect so much out of him. And, part of that is because the UFC pushes him more so than most people. And, like, I get that. But, he's kind of like a middle-of-the-road kind of dude.
He's an athletic freak on the level of, like, Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's just the difference of spending your early years doing taekwondo and point karate and your difference spending your early years doing combat sambo and freestyle wrestling.
Yeah. And gymnastics. Let's not forget about the cool flips he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like when it comes down to it, and he's not like super aggressive either, say Northcutt. He's not like, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back with this ferocious flurry. It's like, you hit me, I'm probably going to reactively shoot a takedown on you. Yeah. And that was another thing, man. Sage was shooting these beautiful fucking double leg takedowns, but just like bouncing off of Gouti. Like, how are you not getting that takedown?
He doesn't have any depth or follow through on his wrestling. It's the same kind of wrestling. Weird. I mean, he's been an alpha male, so it just, this kind of shit takes time. It takes a lot longer to develop a prospect than everybody thinks. I'm going to say that right out. Like, everybody gets excited about a dude who's like his age, and you're like, okay, yeah, realistically, 6 years from now, we should expect him to be in the prime of his career or whatever. But he gets the initial leg drive, but he doesn't have any ability to transition from single to double or to turn the corner on a takedown. So all you really have to do is just like see the attempt coming and lean into it, and that's it. Like, he's not going to turn the corner on you. He's not going to switch it up and go for your single leg and run the pipe on that or anything else. It's just, oh, I went down and I grabbed this single leg and did you hop backwards? Well, I guess I got to let it go and do something else. Or, oh, I went in on this double leg and you sprawled on me and I that's it. That was all I had. So
real incomplete.
Yeah.
But that's Sage. Sage is an incomplete fighter. And I don't know. It's tough that he's coming up in the UFC.
It is. Eyes are all on him. He's started out with a funky base. He's got a great athletic ceiling, but there's just, you're seeing all the kinks get worked out of a dude who should be working those kinks out on LFA still.
Yeah.
Before that, Carlos Diego Ferreira beat Jared Gordon. Tough loss for Gordon. Took a couple kicks in the dick. Didn't help out at all.
Right off the bat, too.
Yep.
Like, fight starts, kick to the balls. Oh, restart, kick to the balls. Oh, that's tough.
I mean, I kind of feel like maybe that affects Gordon's ability to pressure effectively and walk forward with confidence a little. Maybe not. We don't know. We'll never know. But
He didn't take all of the 5 minutes to recover, though.
No, he did. He had options there. Big thing, honestly, is that Gordon, like, I really love his aggression and the amount of the high volume approach he takes, and he's just out there. You know, you see any of his old fights, and it's like 6 strikes a minute, just like marching people down, swinging and swinging and swinging for 15 minutes. But he's not that technical striker, and sooner or later, somebody was going to make him pay the way that Diego Ferreira did. I'm just shocked it was Diego Ferreira. Like that was the surprise.
It was a huge surprise, especially coming off he was suspended, right?
USADA
suspension.
USADA suspension, yeah.
And like, I don't like picking people off of USADA suspensions, but I feel like this dude really has been making the most of his time because he looks so much better on the feet. Like his punches were just, I like that, you know, they were fast, they were hard, and they were coming in combinations.
Yep.
You know, it was, his technique looked better than he did, you know, before he was suspended. And that's something to write home about there. Yeah. And the way he finished this fight was insane. This was like the second of 2 like big brother submissions that we saw in the prelims. It was so, he held one arm behind his back and just started punching him with the other one. Like, so simple, like straight out of the schoolyard.
Yeah.
Poor Gordon.
Yeah, tough loss for Gordon. Good for Ferreira, who, you know, looks better than ever, throwing with speed and straight punches. Came out, I mean, partially he won this because he came out and he set the pace on Gordon. He didn't let Gordon establish a dominant pace early in the fight. I don't know if Ferreira could have kept that up for 15 minutes, but it didn't matter. And he looked technical, and he's always had a scary, scary ground game. So
yeah,
it's a good win for him, and it's a tough lesson for Gordon that he's gonna have to be more technical if he's gonna try to walk in on shots that often.
Yeah, no signs of rust, all sorts of aggression. I'm high on Ferreira again. Like, way to come back with authority.
For that, speaking of big brothering, Jeff Neal just caught Brian Camozzi in his room playing his drums, and
he was teabagging the drum sets.
Like a bulldog choke, just, you know, like.
Yeah, Camozzi, he was the rowdy college kid that got bounced out of the club tonight.
Yeah, no kidding. And I don't even know, like, that was shocking to me because Camozzi, like, regionally, he was a pretty reasonable grappler. He was much too much of a guard grappler to survive in the UFC like that. But he was tricky and he was aggressive, and he's obviously been around UFC level competition for years, working with his brother. And this fight, like, it just kind of showed that, like, not only did you not have the athleticism, we knew that all the way through, and Jeff Neal, you were each getting 1 for 1 on shots, and Neal was hurting you much worse all the way through. But then when it actually came down to it, and Neal just kind of like pushes you down with this half-hearted takedown, gets your back, kind of, you just tap to a bulldog choke. And it's like, okay, well, man, I mean, doesn't tell me much about Jeff Neal other than that he's got heart and he knows how to jump on an opportunity when he sees it. But bad loss for Camozzi.
The bulldog choke, though, like, that's embarrassing.
It is.
You know, and this is 3 straight, like, really bad losses for Camozzi, which just, I can't see them having him back. I really can't. But Neal, man, the dude's boxing combos are fun to watch. Like, he really goes for it. I enjoy it. And he's opportunistic. So, you know, perhaps there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got power, and he's a raw fighter, but hey, he whomped on Camozzi, and that's a start.
That's all you can really ask for, you know. I guess he did what he should have done if he's fighting, you know, Brian Camozzi.
Yeah. For that, Roberto Sanchez beat Joby Sanchez, and man, like, it's Roberto Sanchez's game at his best, but I was surprised to see Roberto's lockdown, like, position grappling game worked that well against Joby. And it kind of, it makes, I was already wondering why the UFC brought Joby Sanchez back. I know he won a couple fights on the Contender Series and had a strong record, but they weren't, like, amazing wins on Contender Series. It was just like, oh, well, you're a flyweight who's winning and we need flyweights. So I guess you're on the show. You're back in the UFC now. And this loss kind of confirmed that. Like, it was just, oh, you're still not athletic enough to compete at 125.
Yeah, well, no, he's not. He can't compete in the UFC. I think that's what the bottom line is. And it's so funny. My friend was like, oh, Joby Sanchez is the favorite. Let's not bet on Roberto. Let's bet against Joby. Like, I could not believe Sanchez or Joby Sanchez was the favorite here. Like, that was definitely crazy. And what also is crazy is Roberto comes out on the microphone and he's like, oh, I actually have a full-time job at a desk. Like, this is just what I do for fun. And it's like, UFC, you got fucking part-time guys out here fighting. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's really going on here?
I'm sure they love that, though. Like, they love to hear that from that dude. They're like, great, we can use you for whatever and pay you nothing because you're making money and you're happy just to be here. That's awesome for us.
Oh, man. I mean, I like it. I think it's cool. But on the same token, I don't know. I like to see fighters be full-time. I think that should be the standard at this level.
Obviously. Most of them aren't, though, and he's just one of the few who's willing to talk about it in public because he probably makes enough money doing, like, IRS claims kind of stuff that he doesn't have to care. Like, he's not, like, out there like, oh, man, I'd really love to quit my job at, like, Foot Locker so I could fight full-time. He's like, nah, I've got a good desk job. I don't give a shit. Whatever. So good on him. Before that, Lucy Putlova.
Hold on, real quick, real fast. Roberto Sanchez scored a one-armed rear naked choke on Joby Sanchez here.
Yeah,
like let's not forget that. And
fair.
Sanchez probably not UFC material.
No, he'll probably get another fight or two, but it is still just one of those things where it's like, man, Roberto Sanchez right before this just got absolutely womped on by a dude who then himself couldn't compete with Davison Figueroa. Or Figueiredo, rather. So, not the MMA math my way through it, but it's just athletic tier. Like, usually have to be kind of a top level elite athlete to compete at flyweight, and none of these guys look like they're that.
Hardly.
Before that, Lucy Putlova beat Sarah Morris in a really fun, really ugly fight. Just, I thought Morris would win for exactly the reasons she almost won, which is that Putlova can't fight smart enough to keep the fight standing. But she couldn't get the arm bars, and at that point, there's no way that Sarah Morris is going to win a decision over pretty much anybody.
Man, that fight was going so well for Morris. Like, she comes out, she cracks a head kick, and then gets the takedown off of that. She's really doing her thing, landing nice ground and pound from the top. And then there was this bullshit-ass stand-up by the referee, like, completely uncalled for. I thought Morris was doing more than enough to keep the fight where it was. I think she was landing solid volume with her ground strikes. So I'm 100% against that stand-up. Yeah. But what can you do? It was what it was. But turns out that was the momentum shift in this fight. Putlova got back to her feet and wasted no time in letting her hands go, busted Morris up, and stole the round back. And then it was pretty much all her for the rest of the fight, outside of a couple submission attempts, which, were great and cool and fun to watch. But Putlova just was so much better on the feet that Morris just didn't have a chance after that.
Morris is really ridiculously slow and awkward for even in a slow and awkward division.
You're being too nice about it.
She's really slow and awkward. And I mean, it'll cost her against anyone she can't pull guard against. And fortunately for her, she's fighting in a division that full of people who will let her pull guard. But it's either like use those few opportunities you're going to get the sub, or you're going to lose, because you can't be that stationary and hittable and awkward and just kind of slow and all that. You just can't.
No, women's bantamweight hits too hard for that.
Before that, Alex Morono beat Josh Burkman in the most predictable sad fight of the night. I realize that Morono is, well, I still argue that Zach Otto and Morono are probably about equal level there for worst fighters that Josh Burkman has lost to. But Burkman still looks like a dude who just should not be in the UFC, and I am totally unclear as to why he was.
Because he's buddy-buddy with Dana White. It's like when nepotism goes wrong, basically. You know, that's why he even got put back into the UFC. Because he was with the World Series of Fighting.
Yep.
And, they actually released him from his contract just so he could sign back with the UFC. So he's like one of those Jeremy Steven kind of guys that's just really into the UFC brass, and they'll do all sorts of favors for him, but it really doesn't do any favors for him because now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive losses.
3 straight within the first round.
Yeah, it's really bad. So he's 1-7-1 in his past 9 fights. And that's
more than that, he hasn't had a significantly decent performance since John Fitch in 2013. Like, beating Tyler Stinson really doesn't mean anything. And that fight with KJ Nunes was abysmal.
That was terrible. I can't believe when he choked out John Fitch, that was in 2013?
Yeah.
It was really that long ago?
Yep.
Wow.
It has been 5 years since Josh Burkman had a performance that was good and resulted in a win. Like, his best fight in the past 5 years was his loss to Patrick Cote.
Yeah, that was a great fight, though.
Yep. It was a great fight, but when that's your highlight for 5 years, like, it's not good.
This is nepotism, man. That's the only reason he's around. He's getting the paychecks. Good on him for still competing, but, you know, I don't like seeing him get club and subbed by Alex Morono.
Yeah.
You know?
Even
though I like Morono.
The roster you could pick him to beat at this point. At all.
And what is this? This is at welterweight?
Oh, it's at welterweight. So CM Punk fights at welterweight, I guess, and they brought Mike Jackson back. I'd pick Burkman to beat them, but that's it.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
It's tough. I like Morono, though. He won me over on the microphone. I didn't expect him to be
great post-fight speech.
You know, he was just so full of energy and so respectful of Burkman and respectfully called out Diego Sanchez, which I didn't hate. I don't like that people follow
fight, though. I don't want to see Diego Sanchez get beat by Alex Morono, too.
Well, then he needs to retire.
I know, but I'm not telling him that. His own family can tell him that. In the meantime, he can fight Josh Burkman.
See, now you're thinking.
Exactly.
But then that's just bringing Josh Burkman back.
Yeah, well, I mean, if these old dudes have to fight, they might as well fight each other. I don't need to see, like...
That's what Bellator's for, right?
Yeah, well, that's why the UFC needs to stop letting these guys... Stop hosting these fights. I mean, they just set Mike Pyle up again to fight, and...
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that makes me depressed.
Zach Otto? Zach Otto's fighting him, right?
I think so.
I don't like that.
No. All right. Before that, Oscar Pichota beat Tim Williams. Pichota came out, tried to look more aggressive than he has at any point before in his career, fighting, you know, moving forward, and kind of just ended up walking into a bunch of big shots because of it. Gave Tim Williams the advantage early, and Pichota finally went back to fighting off his back foot and clipped Williams with the hook coming in and put him down for the KO. So, yeah,
big punch dropped him. Williams definitely didn't know where he was after that.
No.
And he also won over the crowd with his Polish accent. He just gets up there and said hello to everyone, and his manners just won over the Texan crowd. I thought that was kind of cool. But solid win for him. I think he made some fans, and it was a decent showing. He came out really aggressive. They were both kind of going shot for shot. He ate some, he dished some out, and then like you said, he switched it up a little bit and was like, okay, enough of this little brawl. Let me sit back for a second and just pick my shot, and it worked. And
yeah, it's a bad sign for Pichota trying to evolve his style past a guy who's good off his back foot looking to counter. he didn't look that great going shot for shot with Tim Williams, who's a pretty wooden one-shot striker. But Pichota still has really dangerous parts to his game. Like, he's still a good finisher who is really dangerous if you are going to walk forward on him. And as long as he can still do that, he's still an exciting prospect at middleweight.
Yeah, still undefeated, and will really draw on the Polish demographic also.
So back to the top, Donald Cerrone beats Yancy Medeiros, and Donald Cerrone's talking about like going back to being the old-fashioned cowboy kind of fighter. I don't know that really has any weight, but that hopefully means he'll be fighting all the time. And who do you want to see him fight?
Man, I really want to see him in money fights. I want to see him fight a Diaz brother again. That would be awesome if he fought Nate. I would be down for that. I don't know if Nate would be down for that.
No, I don't think Nate would take that fight.
I
mean, as long as he's going to go out and fight anybody, I don't know. It's tough. Like, it's too bad that he and Condit have trained together for so long, because I really doubt that fight would get made.
I was about to say Carlos Condit. He can fight Gunny Nelson.
Yeah. Or Ponzinibbio, I guess, but I feel like that ends poorly.
I don't want to see him fight anybody in the top 10, though.
Yeah.
I feel like that's asking for trouble. He's too hittable.
Tim Means? Albuquerque versus Albuquerque.
Yeah, that's an excellent match.
Anybody, like, that's my thing. As long as Cowboy's going to fight anybody, then he should just fight whatever random action fighter is around looking for a bout.
Yeah, what's Alan Jouban doing?
He is currently getting set to fight Ben Saunders, actually. So.
Okay. Well, maybe he can fight the winner of that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's trying to think of like other fights up the top that we haven't seen. Cerrone, I guess
Stun gun.
Ooh, actually, what if he fought Millander?
Oh man. Oh man.
Off that win over Alves. Come on, you kind of want to see it.
I kind of don't want to see it because I'm afraid for Cerrone's health there, which is a bad sign of the times when I'm concerned for Cerrone's health. But like that's the thing is like I don't want to see Cerrone fighting prospects, and I don't want to see him fight anyone in the top 10. I want him to see like the 11 to 15 or just outside the 15. Like the other veterans that have been around forever. Let him fight the stun gun. Let him fight Gunnar Nelson. Those are perfect fights. Try to work the Carlos Condit deal out because that would be epic.
Yeah, all fair. I'm just hoping that, I'm always happy. He's one of those dudes that I'm always happy to see him stay active and just take fights because win or lose, they're always going to be fun fights. Like I don't really care who he fights, That
Millander fight makes a lot of sense.
It probably doesn't happen just because, like, usually if you don't see fighters who fought on the same card just immediately get scheduled for another card. But if it did, would be fun. On that note, though, we're going to wrap things up. You can find me on Twitter at TheseAnytime. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find both of us over at BloodyElbow.com. We will be back next week for UFC on Fox Orlando, Stevens versus Emmett in what has a couple of pretty good fights on it, and otherwise looks like another card that will do the lowest ratings ever for UFC on Fox.
They've really given up on Fox, I think. They're like, screw this TV deal. We're looking for our way out.
But we'll be back with If I Did It, Heavy Hands, Care Don't Care, Vivisection, all that stuff we do week in, week out. So give us a like over on YouTube, thumbs up thing down there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM, all spelled out. Where you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, news, analysis, all that stuff we do. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you next time.